Hey guys, remember to like the video and hit subscribe. I hate Jordan Peterson. I hate him. I hate his hatred.
Was our diversity that leg one, where we had some advantage, was also what an untenable basis for movement into the future.
True,
that we're going to
yeah.
enter into a green economy that was going to magically make us rich.
Green?
And one of the things you're pointing out is, yeah,
Yikes.
good. There is a virtualized economy, but we don't own any of it. So, and you know, when I looked at Carney's book recently, Values, and he talks about this magical economy, which I suppose at least in part is a knowledge economy that's somehow going to emerge if we leave 80% of our fossil fuels in the ground. But you might say that it's a little short on detailed plan.
True. Like, how could we ever transition to a future with these nebulous concepts like green energy? I've seen solar panels, by the way. They're not even green. And information and knowledge and what, zeros and ones? Like, this is retarded. Let's go back to mining the coal. Get the coal out of the ground. We need to get the goddamn coal. Yes. That's the reality. That's the future. The future is in resource extraction. Yes.
So, okay, so what's Trump exactly? What do you think Trump is up to?
Yeah, I'm trying to spend most of my time with you today characterizing what's going on.
Yeah.
I've only said one normative thing to date, so far in this, which was my belief in capitalism in a liberal...
Ooh. Uh-oh. Is this a real philosophy guy? Because he just used the word normatively correctly. Oh, no. Uh-oh. Why, thank you, dude.
Democracy as the best way for human flourishing. And I'm going to give you what I plan to be only the second normative thing that I plan to say today, that I think that Trump's behavior is unpresidential, it's unprovoked, it's unkind, it's almost certainly illegal, though
What does normative mean? Technically, there are two definitions of normative. Normative either means the thing that's normalized, which is how most people use it. Philosophically, I believe normative claims are usually value statements or ethical claims. So if I say, like, murdering is when you kill somebody, you're just like describing a thing. But if I say, like, murder is bad, or I think murder is bad, that's like a normative claim.
Or to enforce.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
which matters.
But in the characterization, I'm also going to say that I think he miscalculated, and it's actually been unwise and is counterproductive to America's interests and actually in Canada's interests if we seize it. So I think this is a fascinating moment, and to sort of, for Canada, to quote the famous Yogi Berra, when you reach a fork in the road, you got to take it.
Right.
And so Trump sees Mexico as just a commodified labor to lowest cost for blue collar, Canada's to commodified labor at white collar.
Destiny, not flaming, and I get you're not in the loop with Canadian politics, so I don't expect something reflecting policy, but why do you come off as so defensive of the Liberal Party and at least reluctant of the Conservatives? Have I ever said that? Ever? For Canadian politics, I don't know the positions of your Liberal or Conservative parties. If anything, I feel like I've probably... The only two things I've really trashed in terms of Canadian politics are... Were they the PPC or the PCs, like the really far right people? I think I briefly looked into that, and they were lunatics. And then and then I usually just make fun of all of your super woke shit that your liberals have. So like your land acknowledgements and all that cringe shit. But generally, I don't talk about Canadian politics much. I don't know the stance of anybody there. I don't know what the liberals or the Conservatives even think in Canada. I have no idea.
Workers, and it's all got to be subsidized, and so I actually
and
think...
the Pierre Poilievre or whatever, even that guy, I don't think I talked too much about him. I saw one conversation he had with Jordan Peterson that I thought was kind of dumb, but I haven't seen a bunch of stuff. Usually the stuff I cover when I talk about it, though, is I just say the Conservatives have been hurt a lot by Donald Trump recently, which is that's just true, but I'm not necessarily... I mean, I guess I'm like laughing at it or poking fun at it, but it's more poking fun at Donald Trump. I mean, there's anything happened in Australia. I don't know what Australian Conservatives believe, so... yeah.
I think the appeasement, there's a little bit of benefit in appeasement and diplomacy because you inform the U.S. that he may have to dial a few things back a little bit because it's counter to Americans' interests, not because he's compassionate to Canada economically or socially or security-wise. But I think he's said what he is. He believes that they are the empire, that you must pay a tax for the privilege of participating with the empire, interrelated with the empire. He wants to rename the Internal Revenue Service the External Revenue Service, and that people's taxes domestically can go down in the U.S. and that it's paid for through tariffs.
Yep.
And
you haven't said it explicitly, but it seems every time the conservatives describe a problem like productivity, you go against it. But when liberals have something like transitioning to green energy, regardless of how that's done, you criticize the objection to it. Wait, I can't tell if you've ever listened to my stream ever, or if you just have the most retarded reading of stuff I've said before. I think productivity is incredibly important. The thing I was making fun of when Pierre was talking to Jordan Peterson is they had like a 10 or 12-minute conversation that highlighted issues relating to the productivity of the Canadian economy and of the Canadian worker. And they even understood, or Pierre introduced the actual economic definition of productivity, but then they didn't speak about like things that would actually help productivity. So a more educated workforce, investments in education boost worker productivity. Doing higher value add things boost productivity. So when you talk about defunding education, now maybe they're not talking about that in Canada, but in the United States, the conservatives are obsessed with that. That would hurt your productivity. And when you talk about bringing back base level resource extraction and manufacturing, those are also less productive jobs. That hurts productivity. So the thing I was making fun of was the fact they were talking about productivity without talking about how to actually boost productivity. They just brought it up like a thing and then just moved on from it. Also, when liberals have something like transition to green energy, regardless of how that's done, you criticize the objection to it. Are Canadian conservatives as retarded as American conservatives? I didn't know Canadian conservatives were super opposed to green energy. I feel like everybody generally wants to do more green energy stuff, no? Maybe some people say that you're going too quickly on it, but...
And in economics, in prosperity, in a global system, the number one objective is to improve your terms of trade. And terms of trade is really simple. That it's the ratio of the price of what you sell to what you buy. And if you get a better price for what you sell, your terms of trade go up. If you pay more for something that you buy, your terms of trade go down. And that's the whole game, is terms of trade. And we thought that it was about comparative advantage, get out of the way. And America realized that it's about inserting the rent stuff where you get really high rents, which means that drives up your GDP per capita through higher terms of trade. And so their thinking is that I'm going to make you pay to come in here. That's going to enhance the prices we get. And we believe that's going to deflate your currency because it makes you, and a deflation of a currency is like a pay decrease, or
because it buys less,
and you sell it for less too.
Right.
So that worsens your terms of trade. Which
wait, what?
Is like a pay decrease, or
because it buys less,
and you sell it for less too.
Right.
So that worsens your terms of trade, which benefits America's terms of trade. So they're trying to shift the structure of the global.
Oh, I mean, I guess it depends on how you view that. Selling things for less can hurt trade, but if you increase your net exports as a result of being able to sell it for less, I don't know if that necessarily hurts. I feel like it's a tad simplistic, but this guy sounds smart, so I'm not going to contradict him. Maybe it's not relevant what I'm thinking of here, but
global economic system where they become effectively aristocratic and everyone else is some lower economic status entity, and that is an economic logic being played out to Mexico and Canada. The tricky part is there's not a lot more blood to get out of the stone that is Mexico. I think there is a legitimate a security thing that they're paying attention to.
With regards to the border?
Yeah, and there's probably a couple little strategic things they want in the economy, access to the oil system and owning it and so on. But there's a lot of blood to get from the Canadian prosperity because we're a relatively prosperous and rich country, eroding as we are.
Does JP get any credit for being so willing to listen this past couple minutes? Do you think it's a good conversational quality? No. You only get credit for it if you are able to consider what's being said. Just sitting there listening to it and then having the next conversation where you've absorbed nothing is no.
There's a lot of gems in there to get. So I think his objective, if you weaken it enough, you go in for the gems and you hold it in a subordinate position.
Okay, now
because that's the economic logic that is at play here. So
it's a dominance logic, fundamentally.
Yeah, it's an economic and security dominance logic.
Okay, now, but you pointed out that it may well have a paradoxical effect. So let's go into that. I mean, one of the things I've noticed, because I'm very ambivalent about Trump's maneuvers, because, well, he is a bull in the china shop.
I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
I'm angry about them.
Yeah, right.
I wake up angry on it because I feel it's wrong at so many levels. So that's my second normative
Yeah.
thing. I'll shed it now.
Yeah.
You be a clinical psychologist, make me feel a little better, and
Well,
I'm bothered by it.
well,
and I think it's going to hurt 1 in 4 people. What about the 1 in 4 people that have food insecurity? Like, for goodness sakes, people need food and a home, and now, really, this.
Right.
I don't know who this guy is, and I don't know anything about him, but I feel like it's so depressing that this is like a non-starter for an American conservative. Like, to say, like, let's ignore all the economic stuff and the political stuff and everything else, but, like, don't you think it's maybe, like, a good thing to have people not dying of AIDS and not starving to death? Like, if we could spend a little bit of money helping that, like, that's a non-starter. So I guess props to Canadians for at least being able to at least say this still, because in the U.S., no one gives a fuck. Jesus, it's so disgusting.
And you're going to erode the whole system, hurt Canada comparatively more, still hurt America, and vulnerable people are going to pay the largest.
Or at the very least, maybe this guy is kind of a nationalist or quasi-Canadian nationalist or something, but I hope you guys realize this, and maybe the rest of the world is realizing it. That's why the parties are switching. For all of you dipshits in Canada and in Western Europe that saw yourselves as like, oh yeah, Brexit and Trump and populism, we all go together, just know that these movements are me first and you. So if you're championing that and America is doing that, you're going to be the ones to suffer, right? America has a bigger economy than any of your individual countries and some of your larger markets even. Like, it's not like you're going to be championing like, oh yeah, I love that Trump is super America first, ultra nationalistic. Wait a second. Holy we're getting fucked on trade now. Oh my God, our shit is getting sanctioned to hell. Holy shit, we can't even access the American markets anymore. What the It's not good for you, but
comparatively more, still hurt America, and vulnerable people are going to pay the largest price. Because what? Because that's how the aristocracy works. And
like, here's what I want to see, and we've got 3 more minutes. If this was somebody on the opposite side saying things like Americans shouldn't be paying for everyone else's shit, they can't take care of everybody's problems, blah, blah, blah. I feel like Trump's like, yeah, exactly. Trump is so right. True. Amen. Yes, true, brother. Yes, true. But since this guy's presenting the other side, I feel like Peterson's just kind of like, nodding along. He's like, yeah, I guess. He's like, I'm ambivalent towards it. And he's like, oh, yeah, I guess it's bad. Yeah, whatever. And he's not going to say anything. And then the next person's going to come along to talk about how great Trump is and how stupid Canadians are. And Peterson's like, yeah, I agree. 100% actually. Yeah, 100%. Like, is he going to challenge this guy here to hear any pushback? But we'll see.
Let them eat cake. And yeah, as a proud Canadian and somebody that believes in, my dad was an electrician. I mean, these structures, I wouldn't have gone to school. I wouldn't have had this. Yeah, it violates all sense of fairness for me. So that part of it is not cool by me. But yeah, we'll go into the misplayed hand by Trump.
I would like to know partly, for example, why you are a proud Canadian, why you've stayed here because you didn't have to, and why you think this country's worth fighting for. And then I also want to know what you think about the fact that Trump tromping around has actually seemed to wake Canadians up a bit to help them understand once again that they do in fact have a country, that it might be worth preserving, that we should pay attention not only to the resource economy, which we've done everything to scuttle, but that we should maybe wake up with regard to, these more sophisticated issues that you've been bringing to light. Okay, so let's start with your feelings about Canada. I mean,
well, it's a beautiful country. How can you not love the country? I mean, just because I love it doesn't mean I always like it.
Who is this guy? Jim, is this guy? Please don't tell me something horrible about this guy. Can we just learn to say this in the United States? Can every Democrat like memorize, and maybe progressives? Nah, fuck progressives. They can never do it. Can everybody just remember this? I feel like don't parents say this about their children sometimes, or at least children about their parents? I don't always like him, but of course I always love him, right? Like, yes, I love my country. It's beautiful. There's a lot of great things about it, a lot of things to be proud of. It's not perfect. We work to make it better. The only reason why you want it to be better is because you love it. If you hated it, then what the f is the point?
Yeah.
And those
but you have chosen to stay here and keep your operations here.
Yeah, and I've doubled down, of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is my team. This is my country. This is my home. Your job, it's given me so much. And as you said, your obligation is to carry the load you think you can handle. Yeah. So you carry the load that you think is yours, that you can bring to bear. And there's beautiful people who volunteer at food banks, who do many wonderful things in this country, healthcare workers who care for vulnerable, and on it goes. And so I think...
Yeah, well, and you've poured your efforts into developing the the tech economy in the Waterloo area. And my brother-in-law, who's like a tech maven, he thinks that the engineer graduates from this institute in particular are like world top rate. And so like, I mean, you've put your money where your mouth is. And
it's very rewarding. It's very meaningful. It's a shame to see it sub-optimized, but do you let the bullies and the elite failure of the last 30 years prevail when there are so many good people who are trying to advocate for a better country and a better future?
Like who, what, like, can we have this messaging? Yes. This is like he's like me, the institution cuck defense or whatever that everybody hates so much. Like, listen, there's a lot of great stuff here. Let's just like fix the problems. We don't have to throw out everything. There's a lot of great stuff here.